So in this video, let's see about processing of coffee by the different methods, two methods. That is, it can be processed in two ways: wet processing and the dry processing, apart from the general processing method. So in wet processing is done by which parchment coffee is prepared, dry processing in which the cherry coffee is prepared. So parchment coffee prepared by the wet method is more popular in the market. And so wet processing, we call it as a parchment coffee. It involves the three steps: pulping, demucilaging, washing, and the drying. So what happens is, in this method, the cherry is squeezed in a pulping machine, which will remove the outer fleshy material, leaving a bean coverage in the mucilage. So what happens is, this mucilage will get fermented and dispersed within them, and the bean then will be finally washed and dried. Wet processing involves second step is the pulping. Pulping is nothing but by this process we are able to remove the outer red skin and the white fleshy pulp, and the separation of both the pulp and the bean. If the coffee is to be wet processed, correct harvesting is much essential. Most commonly used pulpers are the drum pulpers and the disc pulpers for the small scale pulping plant. Demucilaging and washing means the amorphous gel of mucilage around the bean consists of hemicelluloses, pectic substances, and sugars, and is insoluble in water. So, this mucilage on the parchment skins may be removed by natural fermentation, treatment with alkali, enzymatic method, and some of the frictional removal in machines like aquapulpa. So fermentation is mainly carried out in concrete tanks or by using in plastic containers. So 1 ton of fruits approximately yield some 0.5 cum of wet parchment, and where the quantity requires a tank space of 0.06 cum. And thus for production of 1 ton marketable coffee, like 3.6 cum of tank is being required. Fermentation is mainly controlled so that it is wholly alcoholic, not acidic one. So usually when we see this, acidic fermentation will occur under very dry or high temperatures and high pH conditions in the top 10 centimeter layer. Uh, Due to this acidic fermentation, it produces an unpleasant odor, and in case of Arabica, it takes about 24 to 36 hours for the fermentation process. In Robusta, nearly 72 hours. This is much not sufficient for this Robusta type of coffee. And the beans should be washed immediately, as off flavor will develop. Next is a treatment with alkali. After the fermentation process, we are treating it with alkali. How is that? We are removing the mucilage by treatment with alkali for about 1 hour for Arabica and 2 hours in case of Robusta. The beans obtained after pulping are drained of excess water and then spread in vats, and 10% of NaOH dissolved in evenly applied into the furrows using a rose vein. About 1 kg of NaOH dissolved in 10 liters of water is sufficient to treat 40 liters of the wet parchment. When the parchment is no longer slimy and makes the rattling noise, clean water is let in for another washing. Enzymatic removal of the mucilage is done by the time of the fermentation process, could be reduced by use of pectinolytic enzymes. So this concentration of enzyme and the temperature of the ambient air will determine the fermentation time. Then the removal of mucilage by friction is mainly done by the use of pulper aquapulpa, where the pulp and the mucilage, the beans, will be removed in one operation. These machines are especially suitable for removing the mucilage in the adhered to the beans in the variety Robusta parchment. Okay, and drying is mainly done with the help of the sun drying process, where the moisture content is sufficiently reduced to permit storage of beans till they are dispatched to the curing works. So mainly here moisture content is brought down to 50 to 10% MC. Surface drying is carried out in a best manner ways with wire mesh bottom. Surface drying in trays also may be done for about 24 to 48 hours. So after this surface drying, what happens is, Again, this is taken to later stages of another drying. Thickness of some 7 to 10 centimeters is being spread under sun drying conditions. Consecutively, it will take place for another 2 more days, and it will attain the desired moisture content. And then the coffee is then bagged into clean new gunnies, and it is bagged separately. This is all about wet processing. Dry processing is much simpler of the two methods. And it's like first it was popular in Brazil to process Robusta coffee, and then Sri Lanka to process the Arabica coffee. Fruit should be picked as when they are ripe. Then the coffee cherries are dried immediately after harvest. Then sun drying on the floor, dry floor mats is being adopted. Then these cherries should be racked frequently to prevent fermentation. Solar dryers or artificial dryers also been used for drying. Then it is fully dried at the end 12 to 15 days under bright weather condition. Hulling is mainly done in the wet method. Hulling process actually it is done in both wet and dry. In dry, how they do is the dried cherry is being hulled to remove the pericarp. Then cleaning is done by winnowing, and this goes for roasting process. So this is the general flowchart diagram for coffee processing of wet and the dry process, where wet process and the dry process differs only in two or three general processing operations. And so these are the Robusto types of coffee beans where it is been processed by wet and dry methods. Uses of coffee, mainly coffee acts as a stimulant and as a analgesic one, and memory enhancer also. In constipation treatment it is used as a laxative. It also contains few anti-cancer compound, and also it will used as one of the anti-diabetic one, because it reduces one's risk of diabetes mellitus type 2 by up to half. Some of the risks due to the consumption of coffee is like a coffee jitters. We call it a nervous condition that occurs when one has consumed too much of caffeine. Staining of the teeth occurs. Increased risk of stillbirths in pregnant women. Reduce the fertility in women. That is 4 to 8 cups a day will obviously reduce the fertility issues in women. Roasting is mainly done in time temperature dependent process. This roasting temperature needs nearly 200 degrees Celsius. To attain the degree of roast is it is determined only by visual method. So dry processed Robusta and Brazilian Arabica, they benefit from deeper roasting. So the two common types of roasters used are the drum and the hot air roasting process has been adopted. So changes in roasting will have an increase in volume. Beans will become more brittle due to roasting. Carbon dioxide will be produced, and due to roasting there will be an increase in nicotic acid content in the beans. Then grinding, obviously it is being grinded by using rolling mills or ground coffee is extracted and packed with the 8 hours of grinding. So thank you. This is about the two methods that are adopted for processing of coffee.